Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you how to deploy a full stack web application on Azure Kubernetes Service, which we generally call it as a AKS. As you see in this picture, this is the design diagram which shows what is the thing that I'm going to show you in this video. Okay. So before I go ahead and explain you from the scratch to end of this demo, a kind request, please do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. So with that note, we can get started with this demo. Okay, first of all, let me help you to understand what I'm going to do here. Okay, so this is the design diagram, which gonna explain my demo. Actually, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna create a managed Kubernetes cluster, that is Azure managed Kubernetes cluster, which is generally called as a AKS, right? Once the AKS cluster has been created, which you can see in the outer, rectangle box. So that is our AKS cluster. On top of the AKS cluster, we're gonna host our pods, which is nothing but we're going to deploy our application, and that deployment will internally create some required parts, and the required parts will be hosting our application containers, right? That's what the logic is. And we're going to group these parts to frame and to create a service. Okay, and that's where you see there are 4 services are being symbolized in this diagram, and in front of that we're going to keep ingress controller. Okay, so that is a nginx ingress controller. So that gonna be we're going to be deploying that ingress nginx cluster on this AKS cluster, which will help to consume the services, or which will help the the users which are sitting outside the AKS to access these services. Okay, so now the endpoint through which the admin or the users can access this AKS services through the public endpoint, which is a public IP address. All right, once the user hits the public IP address through the internet, you are invoking the nginx ingress controller rules, right? And that rules going to route your request, that is a network request, to the services which are hosted on AKS cluster, right? And then finally you're going to realize, you're going to see that services being catered for you. That is how the basic, that is how this basic demo covers all about. Okay, so this is the brief overview of what does I'm going to show you. All right, so yeah, so now what we do is we're going to see how we can set up the EKS cluster first of all. Then on top of the EKS cluster, we're going to deploy the services, right? We're going to configure the nginx ingress controllers, nginx ingress configurations, and finally we're going to access the services. Okay, all right. So for this case, I have an Azure subscription. This is my Azure subscription. You can see here, right? And in this Azure subscription, to save the time, okay, because the AKS cluster creation takes almost like 5 to 6 minutes, okay, nearby 10 minutes. Okay, to save that time, I have already pre-created and I have already run the commands on the EKS cluster, and I have the deployed the required applications as well, whichever I have explained here already been done. But now as part of this demo I'm going to explain you the steps that I have carried out, and also give you the hints that that you need to understand while using these. Okay, all right. So as usual in my videos, I have documented all the commandlets that you need to use to understand this demo. Okay, so I have already articulated those commands that you need to run to achieve this demo aim, and these files will be shared in my GitHub repo, and the GitHub repo link will be shared in video's description. You can find these files from there and try to do the replicate the same thing. You're gonna understand. Okay, all right. So here to log into I'm using AGCLI. So here I'm gonna use the PowerShell. I'm gonna use the PowerShell terminal to run those AGCLI command. Okay, so all right. So so here the basic requirement or prerequisite here is you should have your system installed with the AGCLI. If AGCLI is not installed, maybe you can go to the internet and try to find out how you can configure the AGCLI in your system, and then you are good to start. Okay, so for that case, what you do is you're going to open your Windows PowerShell, and then type command called az login -- use device code. So this is the shortest method to log into the Azure subscription or Azure account. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to copy this, right, and hit okay, copy this and browse in the browser. It's going to ask you this credentials, that is the status code. Enter this code and you're going to be authenticated to log into the Azure accounts. Okay, that is where it gives the response. Okay, I have only one subscription. You see the name of my subscription is this one. The subscription ID is this one. My tenant ID is this one. Yeah. All right. The cloud name is Azure Cloud. Okay. So these are the basic data will be returned, which means that you have successfully logged into your Azure account. Okay. And you can see the context. Okay. Currently the context is belongs to this subscription ID. All right. And whatever you're gonna create the resources, whatever the the thing that you deploy on your resources is only hosted on this subscription. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next command. So once that is done, what I did is we're gonna create a resource group. Okay. So for this case, I have already pre-created a resource group. For example, if I can show you. So my resource group where I have deployed the AKS cluster is my resource group. Maybe you can use this Azure dashboard, something like this. Go to the here, provide your resource group name, something like test, right? And then select the reason and create the resource group. Okay, so you're going to end up with creating a vacant or creating a blank resource group, something like this. Then I'm going to show you what did I do in the next steps. Okay, so in the next steps I have again ran the the AGCLI commands to create the AKS cluster. Okay, so here the command is AKS create -g is a group name. This is the group name. Then n is nothing but what is the cluster name that you're going to give, right? And then enable managed identity. So this is this is going to create your managed identity belongs to your AKS cluster, and which can be leveraged for giving the access and all. And the node count is I'm keeping very minimum node count because this is a demo purpose. I want to make my cost as low as possible. Then enable the add-on and the monitoring. Okay, so then we have added the generate SS key. Okay, so this is generate SSH key. You need to have your system with your own system's private key and public key. Okay, then only this command will work, or else it's not going to work. Okay, for this case, how to generate the SS key, have already documented that the commands I'm going to show you in the next case. Okay, so with this command I hit the enter, and it has taken nearby like 5 to 10 minutes to spin up the AKS cluster. Okay, so this is the complete the output of the creation of AKS cluster, that is Azure Kubernetes Service, right? And finally you see my AKS cluster is created here. And if I can go back, right, and these are the resources it's going to create dynamically, in the sense this is the only resource group was there when I started creating the AKS cluster, right? And if you see, this is my AKS cluster is been created, right? And these are all the properties you can explore. Okay, right now I'm using the version 1.22. Okay, and these are the details you can explore, and the namespaces. Okay, the namespaces are also already created. Maybe I will explain, or I will explain the later keys as well. Okay, so now we go next. So once you deploy the AKS cluster with using the AGCLI, it's gonna create a default resource group which will contain all the AKS resources. So here we are using the VM scale set. Okay, so that's the reason we have only limited resources. Okay, it contains a virtual network. It contains a virtual scale set, that is a VM scale set, right? And it's gonna have the route tables as well, and the NS security groups. Okay, so these are being configured tightly each other, and this is the VM scale set which is actually hosting our Kubernetes parts right now. Okay, I'm gonna show you that how does it works in the later case. Okay, so it creates this resource group, and along with the network watcher resource groups. So whenever you enable the network watcher, okay, on the respective regions, right, or respective locations, right, it's gonna create a network watcher group, and in that one it's gonna enable the network watcher services for you. And after that, it's gonna create a default resource groups, okay, which is required for monitoring purpose and all. All right, so that's the brief about the resources it's gonna create. Okay, remember that when you are creating a AKS cluster, it's gonna create a resource group, okay, and that is managed resource group. Okay, you don't have the permissions to do anything on this one except delete. Okay, all right, so this is managed resource group. Okay, and this is going to be created by the Azure itself. Okay, and it's gonna host the resources of your AKS cluster, and the AKS services, that is a PaaS AKS services, are gonna be hosted on your original resource group. Okay, rest all resource groups are created out of your AKS creation. That's a basic information. Okay, once that is done, now it is time to update our Kubernetes config file. Okay, so how do I do that? So for that case, I'm gonna run the command called AKS get credentials. This is my resource group and my cluster name. Okay, which gonna update my kube config file. Okay, so why do I need to update the kube config file? So that the credentials required to connect to my Kubernetes cluster, okay, and that gonna be updated here, right, in this config file. Henceforth, I'm able to do the next service, okay. So what I'm doing is so once I have updated my local kubeconfig files, then I can run my kubectl command. You see, I have run a kubectl command. So let me go back to the file to follow. So once we are done with it, so okay, so we have created a resource group like this. Then these are the two parts, okay, these are the two parts which will help you to create a public and private keys belongs to your system. You can run this system with using the admin credentials. With using the PowerShell admin access, you can run this command, and then after that use a general access, that is a user normal your user session of the PowerShell, and run this command. You're going to create the required keys, okay, and that keys will be hosted in your C drive. So if I can show you that, so if you go to the user, so here I'm the Lenovo is the user, and in this one if you go to the sh file, so sh file, you should have this IDRS and .pub file, which is a private one, and this is a public one, okay. If you have those two, then you are good. All right, okay, so that is the reason these commands is for. Next one, this is the we already saw this one to create a AKS cluster. Then we are now updating the kubeconfig file. Then we are actually creating the namespace which is required for down deploying our resources, okay. That is creating a namespace called ingress-basic, right. So once I have run this command, I will get output called, let me scroll down. So we'll get an output called, the namespace / ingress basic is created. Okay, that's the output of the API. Now we go next one. So in the next one is we need to update. Okay, so these are the commandlets. I have followed the same sequence which I have written here. You need to do same thing. Okay, and next one is we need to deploy the we need to update our Helm repo, because I'm using Helm here again. To update the Helm repositories required to install the nginx ingress. Okay, so here I'm doing Helm repo add ingress nginx, and this is the source of that Helm repo. Okay, and once you hit this, that repository nginx, ingress nginx is going to be added in my local repositories. This is needed because I'm using Helm command. I'm using the Helm utility to install the nginx controllers. Okay, nginx ingress controllers. If you see the follow my next command, so that is the command which does that magic. Okay, so as I said, we are using the Helm charts to install the nginx ingress configuration on my EKS cluster, right, or AKS cluster, right. So that's a Helm install nginx ingress, and this is the chart name, and the namespace where it has to done is ingress basic, then set the controller the controller replica count equal to 2, and then we are doing certain configurations. Okay, that is the kubernetes.io.os equal to Linux. I set the default backend node selector equal to beta, right, and finally equal to this one. So maybe you just need to follow this command and run it across. Okay, it's going to take certain time, and it has a very huge deployment, I can say. So if I can follow down, all right, so we scroll down. So if you see, it has taken much time. Okay, finally you see the nginx ingress controllers are successfully deployed here. Okay, and then we are done with this command, that is Helm charts to deploy the nginx ingress controller. Okay, and after that we are good to do the next steps, that is deploying the app, right, nothing but making some deployment. Okay, and then deploying the nginx ingress configurations, and then checking the applications. Okay, very simple one. So let me go to the next one. So I did a CD. Why did I do? Because I'm going to consume the app.yaml file, and I'm going to consume the ingress.yaml file, which is kept in my folder called, this is the folder. Okay, that's the reason I do CD. If you see, I did CD, right, and after that I did a kubectl apply. Okay, if you see command kubectl apply -file, that is app.yaml, and in the namespace I'm going to use ingress basic, which I created above, right. Once I hit the enter, it has created the deployment. If you see, it has created a deployment.apps, that is API has been created, right. Serverless services are being created, right, and then it has a deployment apps have been created. Then we have the services are being created. So basically I have created 2 services and 2 deployments. I'm going to show you those. So let me walk you through this file. So this is basically app.yaml file is again a application deployment specification file of Kubernetes in general, right? And it's a big file. It contains 70 lines. Maybe I will walk you through that very quickly. The first one is we are deploying multiple components here, right? Multiple kinds, I can say. First one is we are doing the deployment, yeah, and the metadata is API. If you see, the replica accounts are 3. Then a match table is API, right? We have the templates, metadata been declared, okay? And then we have the containers, the specifications, the name is API. I'm using some, some public images being hosted by some other developer, okay? And thank you for this developer, okay? All right, so I'm consuming that developer's image, which is hosted in the public, hub, okay? This image is being hosted in the public hub, public repository, and that's the reason we are able to consume that. And then we are configuring the resource limit, in the sense this, these containers, replicas of 3, gonna have the resource, controls or resource limits. All right, if you see the request equal to CPU equal to, it has the 100 milliseconds, right? And then you have the memory equal to 128 MB. Then the limit equal to 250. Yeah, so these are the these are the starting, and these are the threshold as well. And finally port is that is HTTP port. Okay. All right, so for this deployment I am creating a service here, right? We are creating a service with the name called API, and it is reachable on the port number 80. Similarly, the another deployment, okay, it's again pointing to the same one, same application with the same configurations, and we are creating the service, okay, and the name here is website. The earlier service name was API. Anyways, this file will be shared in my GitHub repo, and the GitHub repo link is shared in this video's description. You can find it from there, so that you are syncing with my explanation. Okay. All right. We go to the next one. So I did apply this file by running kubectl apply. If I show you that, so this is how I did. So if you see, this is how I did, and finally we have created the 2 services and 2 deployments. Now it is time to create our ingress. Okay. Before I run the command, I will show you what did I do in the ingress.yaml file. So this is the file which actually deploys the ingress on the EKS cluster. Okay. The first step we did is we have deployed the controller. Okay. And then now we are actually deploying the ingress configurations, nothing but ingress parts. Okay. So controller is required and ingress is required. Both are required. Okay. So if you are missing the controller, which is done by the Helm command, if you are missing this one, then ingress will not work. Okay. So these are tightly coupled. The controller will help the ingress to work as expected. Okay. But that's the reason we need to install controller first, then we need to install the actual ingress part. Okay. So this is our actual deployment. Okay. And it contains, okay, if you see the API, I'm using the latest API of the ingress, that is version 1. This is the ingress. And then we have the the name of my ingress, then the namespace it belongs to. In the annotation, if you see, I'm using the class nginx. Okay. And in the specification, we are defining the rules, and the rules type of HTTP rules belongs to the path categories, and we have the path is equal to /*, then the path type equal to prefix. Then in the backend, we are having the backend as a services, which I shown in the diagram. So here it is pointing to 2 services which we created in the deployment. One is a website and another one is the app APIs. Okay. All right. So if I go back to the diagram, so that is where these pods and the pods are being clubbed together, and you are framing a services, and that services are being served by the nginx ingress controllers. Right. All right. So next command is to install the ingress. Okay. This is the command. I'm going to explain now how did I do it. So basically I had an error. If you see, I deployed the command called kubectl apply - this one. Earlier I was having version. This is a very good learning for you. So this is, I had a version called networking.kubernetes.io/version 1 beta 1, which is an older version. So it has thrown the error saying that it is not able to identify because this is deprecated now. Okay. So this ingress API version is deprecated. That's the reason it has thrown me error. Post that, what I did updated my ingress file in a such a way that it is consuming the latest API version, networking.kubernetes.io/version 1. All right. When I did that, okay, so it has hit the error again. But when I tried one more time, if you see, I have tried second time, but it has thrown the error. But that was a false error. I have retried again. Okay. It only telling me, if you see, retry please. Yeah. For that case, what I did is I just checked if my kubectl commands are working fine, and nothing but I have still does my kubectl session is working or not. Okay. That is the check I did by running the command called kubectl nodes. Okay, if you see, I did that. Yeah. And finally, the time has come to apply my ingress configurations. Okay, that is I did, and it has returned me an output saying like, ingress is configured or created. Then we are done. Okay, so now we are done with this complete setup. We set up the ingress controller, ingress configurations. Then we deployed our application. We configured the services within the application, within that app deployment, right? And then we have also deployed ingress pods. Okay, so if I can show you that, kubectl get pods f1n, the namespace. So what is the namespace here? That is ingress. So what is the namespace of mine? Sorry, it's ingress basic, or what is the namespace that we created above? I forgot it. So the namespace which you created is, this is the one. Okay, ingress basic. Now we're gonna see our health of our pods. Okay, kubectl get pods. Okay, so if we run this one, here you go. Right, all our pods are running. If you see here, so we have all parts are running, right? So one is our API parts. If you see, right, there are, if I go back, you can correlate now. In the app, right, for API, we have the replica of 3. What does this mean? In the sense, replica in the sense, you are telling I need these many number of parts to be running, right? And that is carrying the application of image, this image, okay? That is calculator API image. And that is where we have the 3 one. Okay, similarly for website also we are doing the same thing, and these are these are running. So okay, if you see here, one is pending because of some problems. Okay, but 2 are running, which is fair enough for the functionalities. Okay, and finally we have the ingress. Okay, there are 2 ingress part also been running. Okay, all right, so those are the ingress controllers in general. Yeah, all right, so we are done with the configuration. Now it is time to verify our application. Okay, anyways, okay, all right, now how do I do the next steps? Okay, I need to check the public IP address of my application, right? That is the endpoint of an ingress controller. So how did I do is I just copy this command and get my public IP address. I will just go do that, right, and hit enter. So this is gonna return something. If you see, it has returned the kubectl namespace. This is the namespace, get service byte, and with the name ingress service. Okay, that is, I'm just retrieving the ingress services endpoints. Okay, that is external. So basically what does this command does is, to get the public IP address of the ingress, that is the endpoint of the nginx ingress, we have to run this command and get the public IP address. Okay, if you see this command, it is returning some output. In that one you have the external IP. Okay, that is the something we need to consume to access our application. Okay, anyways, this is just external IP address. Maybe at the real time, so we are not using the external public IP address, but in front of external public IP address we're gonna host the DNS one. Okay, that is the next step that we need to do. All right, but for this demo we just need to show you the full stack web application is been deployed or not. Right, now we realize that scenario when we run this public IP address in the internet. If you see here, right, my application, this is a dummy application, or this is an application being written by some of the developer in the internet. Okay, and it is working fine. So let's do the functionality test as well. So let's say I'm gonna add 2 plus 2. Let's calculate. If you see, the answer is 4. Okay, which means that my application is working fine. This application is hosted on the AKS. All right. Okay, so the required things to be shown in this video is already been done, and so yeah. So anyways, the files being used in this videos will be shared in GitHub repo. You can find it there and try to replicate the same from your side as well. Okay. Finally, thank you very much for watching my videos. Again, a kind request: please do subscribe my channel. That would really encourage me a lot. So with that note, thank you, thanks a lot, and see you in the next video.